You're watching Mental Health with Marcie, and I'm Marcie. In today's video, we are going to talk about my number one rule for depression. And I just invented this rule, so take or leave it as you see fit. There are really no rules when it comes to mental health or mental illness, but this is just my really number one recommendation for anyone struggling with depression, and at least in my experience, it's helped a lot. So that's my caveat and disclaimer before we get into it. And we'll just cough and have a big stuffy. This is like a very large stuffy. I feel like she's like, her head is like bigger than mine, but I love Hello Kitty. So anyway, getting into it, my number one rule for depression is to stay alive. And the reason I say it in that specific way of being more, what's the word? Like positive, like it's not don't die, it's stay alive. Because by actively making sure that we're taking steps to keep ourselves alive, I think, for me anyway, I'll just say that's been really the best kind of suggestion that I've had, is that kind of no matter what of anything else, it's like, let's just focus on the one thing. And again, it sounds so oversimplified, but let me explain. We'll see if you're on my side by the end of this video. So really, it's all about the idea that nothing else really matters except for that, right? Like when you're in a depressive state, you might have, or at least I might have, different thoughts of like, oh my God, I haven't done my dishes, I haven't washed my hair in 3 days or a week, or I haven't left my house in 4 days, whatever it is. You might have all of those thoughts, or at least I do. And so to me, those things seem like insurmountable. And it's like, okay, well, now I'm like a shitty person because I can't do my dishes. But it's like, if I go back to the core of it, of really just surviving the depressive episode, then it's like, well, hey, no matter what, I made the conscious effort to stay alive and to make sure that I'm still here. And so that's something that I just really find kind of that perspective can be really hard to have when you're actually in a depressive episode, because it's like, well, everything, I feel like I'm a failure, like nothing is going right. And like the idea of even just like, okay, I'm actively choosing to be here, and that is a victory in and of itself. To me, that's something that is super impressive and admirable. And I think, if nothing else, like I said, like your dishes will still be there, your hair will still be on your head. Well, maybe it won't, I guess, if it just eventually falls out from not washing it. Does that what happens when hair, you don't wash it, does it fall out? I don't know. Again, not the point of this video, but like nothing else matters, if you're not actively trying to stay alive. And so that's really what it comes down to when I think about, my personal experiences with severe depression, is no matter what, even, what was it, a couple months, weeks, I'm bad with time. A while ago, in talking with my friend, I was like, well, like definitely do not drive, intoxicated of any kind. Like obviously don't do that, but that really goes against our rule of staying alive, because it really helps in terms of some of the kind of reckless behavior that I've experienced, where it's like, oh, I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter, or oh, I don't need to like eat or drink anything. Like, I don't know if you have ever had that with severe depressive episodes where you don't eat or drink. It's like, well, it's okay if I don't shower, but like I need to drink some water at minimum and then eventually eat. And so that kind of stuff, it helps that surviving phase. Of course, we don't want to always be in a state where we're like actively trying to stay alive, but sometimes that's just the case. And I know what that's like. And I mean, it's different for everyone, of course. But for me, I've just found that being able to focus on actively staying alive, and really being like, okay, well, I'm not going to, veer my car into traffic because I want to stay alive, because I want to take care of my dog, or whatever um, the case may be. That is something that is in the back of my mind a good amount of time, and so it's something that I have to think about, especially again when I'm in a severe depressive episode. But I think it helps me a lot. Again, it's everyone has their own individual experiences, but it's kind of like just that perspective that, okay, it's fine if I don't fill up the dog food, or if I don't work today, or I don't respond to these text messages, but it's not fine if I don't drink water, or I crash my car off the side of the road. Like, that's not fine. And so a lot of times it's like, well, these other things that seem so insurmountable in the moment, like they can wait. But the staying alive part, that can't wait. Can't go back from that. And so that's just for me, what I found when I'm kind of on that, I guess what I'll call near crisis or crisis level of a depressive episode, is that I really just focus on that. Of course, we don't want to always be in that, or we never want to be in that state, but there's obviously shades of gray and spectrum here where, obviously you don't want to not be able to do your dishes for 3 months, but sometimes that's a cycle of life. And if you powered through and stayed alive, like, kudos to you, because I know that it's not always easy, and it's not easy for a lot of people struggling with mental health conditions. And so that's kind of where I'm trying to give myself some grace, because a lot of times I will be like, oh, feels like so bad, like be so hard on myself, I guess. Feels like be like, oh, I'm a terrible person for not doing these things, or I wasn't able to work as many hours, or whatever stupid thing I make up in my head to be this like huge thing. I make myself feel bad about it, but it's like, actually I am doing a lot of good things by just taking care of myself, even like I said, drinking, eating. For me, I have a dog that I need to take care of, that I have to let her out. And so like that's my main thing, is literally sometimes I'll just lay in bed and like I have to get up to let the dog out. So that'll be, I mean, my also thing is keep myself alive and also my dog. Those are like, that's my like secondary rule. But I have to keep myself alive in order to keep the dog alive. So still number one. I'm not good with numbers here. But that's like my other thing, is like it forces me to get out of bed, because like my dog is important to me, and like I need to keep her alive as well. And yeah, and so it's a lot of times when I'm in severe depressive episodes, I'll be literally like, she has to come to my bed, the side of my bed, and ask me to let her out, because she's like, this is where mama is all the time. I have to pee, let me out. So that is something that also helps me, is if I do have like someone else to take care of, like my dog, I think about a lot, and that I need to stay alive in order to, make sure she's okay. But really, when it comes down to it, it's all about keeping myself alive. And even, I guess it sounds bad, but whatever kind of logic that you need in order to like get yourself into that space, I think that's, that's totally fine. So for example, like I said, like if I'm like, okay, well, I need to stay alive so I can feed my dog, like if it helps me stay alive, then that's great. So it's kind of, I feel like so often, obviously, like it's important to talk about all the other areas of depression and, areas of gray, but that's at least my focus. It's not always, also, I guess I should have a big disclaimer here. It's not always like easy, and it's not easy as fuck. Like, it's not to just be like, oh, just stay alive. Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's just about realizing that in the moment nothing else matters except for staying alive, and that, you know, that if that can be your primary focus, at least for me personally, it has helped to be like, okay, well, I might not be able to do these other 10 things that I think I should be able to do, but I can stay alive, and that is something that should be applauded, in my opinion. So I will link all kinds of resources, including the suicide prevention hotline. You can call 988 at any time, and then I'll also link like the crisis text line and other resources down below if you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts. But regardless, I think that it's, if we can just focus on that kind of initial hurdle, then once, at least for me personally, I get past that element, I'm like, okay, well, I feel like good about staying alive, then like let's go to the next thing, and then I can focus on doing the dishes or whatever else. But to me, really, that number one rule is just always to stay alive, and again, to make it like an active, positive, and conscious choice. That's something that at least I'm trying to do. Let me know what helps you kind of fight through the depression. I know, like I said, I know it's not easy, and it's not just like, oh, just stay alive. Like that would be crazy. Like that would be great if like that is how it worked. But yeah, let me know if you have any suggestions or anything that helps you through depression. But that's, for me, on the severe end, is just to really try to keep myself in perspective, and that, you know, if I stay alive, then I can do all those other things and work on the other elements of depression. So thank you so much for watching, and stay well, my friends.